if Socrates were alive today, he would say that every great idea began with a question worth answering, and great ideas worth spreading are what great questions are all about. So here's mine. If Aphrodite is the goddess of love, then why did the ancient Greek poet Homer say that Aphrodite started the Trojan War? She didn't. Instead, the ancient Greek historian Herodotus informs us that, in fact, Helen of Troy started the Trojan War. Helen fled Troy for Egypt. Helen fled for Egypt from an abusive, jealous, possessive King Menelaus. Helen was like Aphrodite. She was a self-help, do-it-yourself kind of woman. And she got herself out of Troy in a hurry. Documenting history is really great, but making history is how we dispel myths, and in particular, legal myths. Last year, 3 University of Nicosia computer science and technology women made history. They created this image of Aphrodite, fragile yet powerful. But what's even more powerful was that these 3 women gave thousands of hours because they wanted to give a gift to Cyprus. They were young, they were excited, they understood the message, and they wanted to put it across to their nation in the most powerful way they could possibly do together. This image of the goddess of love, Aphrodite, who was born in Cyprus, was made in Cyprus. But what was really made in Cyprus, and the historical piece of this image, is the message: zero tolerance of abuse against women. Now, why is this so powerful? Because it does not include the word domestic violence or domestic violence. It was the first time that any campaign, nationally or internationally, had ever finally said the message is not about necessarily violence against women. And the reason for that is because all violence includes abuse, but not all abuse is violent. Many forms of abuse are nonviolent. Threat, intimidation, and harassment are 3 types of nonviolent forms of abuse. So why is this so important to us? The reason for that is because many laws limit your human right protections to privacy, to non-interference, to blocking unwanted contact. We'll get back to that. In December 24th, 2014, these three women, under web developer Alexander Hajidaki and myself, guiding these women through the process of creating what is now the International Virtual Toolbox for every woman everywhere to help herself, to end her own abuse. And they did it because they believed it was time for Cyprus to have more options for women vis-a-vis the internet age. So what is OWAAT, or One Woman at a Time? OWAAT is aimed at empowering women to take up a pen, to understand their human rights, and to be able to place the law in their hands and to move themselves from abuse victim to self-represented civil litigant, appearing before the court, asserting her human right to no contact. OWAAT was initiated. It was initiated because Cyprus initiated it. So how did this idea begin? I'm an American. What am I doing in Cyprus? This idea began with a question. In 2007, I received a phone call from a friend of mine. She wasn't calling me because I was an attorney. She was calling me because she wanted to ask me a critical question, and she was embroiled in a situation that she really needed some friendly advice. This woman happened to be an attorney, and she happened to be specialized in family law. She asked me if I thought that she could download the forms that were available in her court jurisdiction and get through some tough spots to further her aims. I said, yes, you can. And she did. And she got what she wanted from the court on her own. It was the first time she had asserted her right instead of somebody else's as an attorney before the court. A little bit of a different story. But nevertheless, she needed just a little guidance. This got us thinking, well, if you could do that by yourself, then aren't there other things that we can do to actually initiate no contact? Well, of course. We do it every day. We pick up our phone, and we don't want somebody calling us, so we press a button, code it in, blocked. We go on Facebook, defriend. Gmail, filtered, no contact. LinkedIn, they could improve it, but there are methods. We do this every day. We block people from making unwanted contact with us. So the next question is, well, if you could do this so easily by yourself, why can't we do this so easily legally? Well, there are many rights that we have. Many of them are called legal rights that we are entitled to. Unfortunately, many of these rights are a little bit more difficult to obtain. Why? That was my next question. In 2008, I began to embark on research, taking a look at what was going on with these no-contact statutes, if there was one. Did anyone have anti-stalking legislation that protected us from threat, intimidation, and harassment, abuse? The United States, fortunately, has done a great deal. Most United States have enacted some sort of civil protections of anti-stalking, or criminal. All states have enacted some form of anti-stalking legislation. Only 6 of the European Union member states have enacted anti-stalking legislation. Why? The United States has discovered in its own lens that in 2009, and this number is continuing to grow worldwide, 3.9 million people annually were stalked. Most alarming of all was that of the individuals who were murdered, 67% of them told someone they were being stalked by the person who ultimately, allegedly, if they were prosecuted, took their life. What are we going to do about that? The next problem for many, many, many nations throughout the world is this. It does not understand what the UN found some time ago, actually, was that the most effective thing that 67% of women who were stalked, intimidated, abused, some sort of violence occurred to them by someone, some unwanted context. 67% of them said the one thing that really stopped them from going back to an abuser and moving forward with their life was a no-contact protection. This is enormous. So I had to take a look at what was really going on because I knew that the United States, like my friend, was able to just go online, download the forms, fill them out, and do what she wanted to do to get the remedy that she needed now. So what was going on in Europe? Not a lot. What I discovered was that while some European Union member states did provide some kinds of civil protections, many didn't. And many of the European Union member states had some kind of legislation for domestic violence, but it had all kinds of limitations. You couldn't really get the protection unless you did X, Y, Z. Police report, hospital record, indisputable evidence before the court in an evidentiary hearing. This is very hard. Why is that? It seemed to me that this couldn't possibly be legal. After all, many of these European Union member states have signed international treaties, were Council of Europe members, and were supposed to be abiding by human rights. So why were these statutes on the books? I dug a little deeper. I started to see that many European Union member states were reporting on what was going on. They were saying this is a problem. They were concerned about it. They were coming up with all kinds of slogans about domestic violence, we need to prevent it. But there was one place in the European Union that had remained quite silent. And that is why Cyprus interested me. I did not find information on Cyprus until 2011. In 2011, the Mediterranean Institute of Gender Studies came out with a study called React to Domestic Violence. In it, it actually pinpointed and earmarked that legal gaps were the reason why predominantly poor, abused women were essentially prevented and precluded from court because they could not find a way in. They couldn't afford to hire an attorney, and they couldn't wait until legal aid considered their case worthy. These women were falling through the cracks, and the numbers were increasing. It also pinpointed a sociological issue within the island. A patriarchal society with Middle Eastern mentalities was preventing women from getting the protections that they were entitled to obtain. But why was Cyprus really interesting to me? Because the face of Cyprus is the face of an abused woman. Here is a nation in the world the last divided capital city in the world, Nicosia, a nation that is surrounded by a no-contact buffer zone. Here is a nation that has implemented the remedy that it needed to prevent violence and keep the peace temporarily while it figured things out, while both sides went on with their lives. Here was an island in the middle of the Mediterranean with one foot leaping into modern Europe and the other foot stuck in the mud in a medieval mentality. This dual despondence triggered a passion in me to file an application for a Fulbright. Fortunately, it was granted. My idea was this. Let's use some models that work. We've got a few in the United States. Let's see what happens. Let's bring the basic idea to Cyprus and see what Cyprus does. Because certainly, I don't know how to create a website. I'm an attorney, and I don't know how to do that. And there were many things that I didn't know how to do. I didn't know anything about this island. So before I arrived, I got online. I started looking at you. I started looking at what you were telling the world about who you are. And there are many of you who have done tremendous things. And I saw many of you give to your community. And I picked a few people from a wide array of professions and sent them a simple, will you join in this effort to create a community court collaboration aimed at empowering women to self-help and access their human right to no contact on their own? And they said yes. People from all over, as I say, the island. Shopkeepers, mothers, accountants, architects, engineers, computer technology, restaurateurs, waitresses, judges, priests, bishops, mayors, men and women in Cyprus came forward. And every one of them gave something and said, and if I can't do it for you, I know a few people who can. Before I knew it, the OWAAT concept spread throughout this island like wildfire. It opened up the cracks and it filled them. The legal gaps that were presented to me in the REACT research were beginning to fill in. The virtual toolbox of OWAAT that's online provides everyone, every man, every woman, and every child the ability to download your forms, to take a look at your own personal issues that you are facing under abuse, to fill it out in a truthful way, and then to march down to court and do what you need to do yourself. You have made history. Where is OWAAT today? The first woman in Cyprus to file an ex parte application for injunctive relief in Nicosia District Court has stepped forward. She downloaded the forms off of OWAAT. But before she did that, she learned what her human rights are. She knew what to say when she was told, you don't have the right form. She said, yes, I do. I have the right form. I'm filing under human rights. She has a hearing. It's coming up in a few days. Pretty amazing. Because you have this right. I'm an attorney. And I got to tell you, You don't need attorneys all the time. Sometimes in life, you need something to happen right now. And you cannot wait for somebody else to do it for you. You cannot wait for a policeman to show up at your door. You cannot wait for a medical record to pop down the system. And you cannot wait even for a legal aid attorney to figure out whether or not you are entitled to a right to no contact absent evidence of abuse. You need it now. And you can get it now. Because you also have the human right to an effective remedy. And if it's immediate, what does that mean? It means now. It doesn't mean when your lawyer's ready to come over and figure it out for you. It means now. And you've got a voice. You've got a website. You did it. You made history. I just watched it happen. My wish is this. Today, OWAAT is a household word. Women read the paper today, and so did men. And so did your courts and your judges. You have options. OWAAT should be a household word worldwide. And there's no reason why. The self-help, replicable, virtual, international toolbox that was created in Cyprus, made like Aphrodite, cannot be brought worldwide to help everyone. Because the day is now. It's already happened in your nation. Every woman can stand before her court and say, Your Honor, I'm here to ask you to grant me protections of my right to no contact. Thank you.